Hey guys, welcome back to Accursed Brew. My name is Azriel, and today, boys, I'm bringing you guys back a classic. We're heading back to our roots and checking out Stalker 2's patch 1.4, as well as seeing how this sort of fits into the Q2 2025 roadmap that GSC released not too long ago. So if you guys end up enjoying this, please give the video a like. It is super helpful to us, a growing channel, as well as subscribing if you guys want to catch more Stalker 2 content. I know we've been a little light on it as of late, but that's just because we kind of finished the main quests. We've done some of the side questing. We've kind of exhausted it for what it was, and I don't want to just sit here and keep hammering at it, just putting out whatever. Please hit the subscribe button if you guys want to check out more. But without further ado, let's jump into these patch notes and just check out some of the highlights and some of the big things that I've noticed, some of the things that I'm liking, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so this patch has a focus on combat and also touting over 700 fixes and improvements. So we're not seeing like a wide slew of additions and things like that to the game. I think as we get closer to what eventually will be some DLC and things like that, I think we'll start to see a lot of those big changes, those big additions, waiting for that to kind of hit. Typically, developers like to kind of intertwine all that to build up hype for their DLC, as well as sort of incentivize people to pick it up. So I think as we near that, that's when we'll start to see like some of these bigger changes. But to start off with, some of the things that we are seeing in this, and unfortunately, I wasn't able actually to see this happen in my game. So bear with me as I put up on the screen the sort of GIF that they have on the Steam patch notes page, which is mutants being able to eat corpses. Again, this is just not something I was able to find. And honestly, like this is kind of like something I noticed with a lot of this patch is that there's really only one thing that has like I can actually see come of it. A lot of the changes and adjustments, honestly, I just don't really feel like they're working exactly how the patch intends them to. And honestly, there's been like a lot of, I've been seeing a lot of posts and things like that, like on Reddit and other various forums where people are kind of talking about the same. They're just seeing NPCs act even weirder than normal. So I think maybe this update's a little bit more broken than it is anything else. That's at least been my personal experience so far, and some of the experience that I've been seeing online. So I just wanted to preface with that right off the bat. But like I said, they added corpse eating for mutants, which honestly is a really cool, like sort of immersion addition. Seeing enemies act more how you'd expect them to, right? Like, to be honest, I never really crossed my mind, I guess, kind of like what mutants eat. I would assume they'd fight one another and then eat each other afterwards, because you do see them fighting here and there in the zone. So I guess it was always my assumption, but now we get to see it happen, in action in front of us, or at least supposedly. Again, I haven't been able to find it. The next thing that we're going to see is that they have an alert state now. As you kind of creep up to them, they become aware of something going on. I guess kind of how I would imagine this happens in the game is that maybe they start patrolling when they hear some noise. Maybe they catch a glimpse of you, or even seeing another enemy, another character, another mutant, things like that. Again, just another nice little immersion addition. Usually that's something that you see kind of in most games, is that when you like alert somebody, you see them kind of walk around and start to notice, instead of it just being like a 0 to 100 thing. But it is nice nonetheless that it's here and it's present now. Now, another highlight that I take away from the patch notes, and albeit, again, like I said, I'm not necessarily seeing this in action, but I do want to call it out because it is present in the notes, is that AI now can use, and characters in particular, can use cover. They have better callouts when they're talking to one another. And then they also get the ability to kick. They can kick you when you're down. They can kick a mutant when they jump in their face. Again, I guess it's just like a nice little thing, like why not? And then most importantly, and I cannot trust you, like how big of a deal this was and how much of a pain in the butt this was at certain points in the game, especially like hallways when you're fighting like a group of characters, a group of bad guys, is that they now have a finite number of grenades. Instead of just constantly chucking them at you, now that hopefully you only get like a couple and then they're just out. There was this one point towards the end of the game where I'm walking down this corridor. It's like there's a bunch of pipes and everything around me. There's kind of this verticality in this area as well, and I'm just constantly having grenades thrown at me. I couldn't tell you the amount of times I died trying to get through that hallway, but thankfully I did, and thankfully if I were to go back and play this game again, it's not something that I would have to deal with, which is a beautiful thing. Now, the one thing I do want to mention about the callouts is that that's something that I would probably say almost every video of ours that we have on Stalker 2, you can see the enemies call things out, and it just makes no sense, right? Like you'll see that at the top of your screen you have like whether or not you're in danger or like in combat or not, where it's like a red bar, you would almost always see that red bar there. You would have enemies shooting at you, and then they're like calling out like, hey, the area is clear and things like that to one another as they're shooting you. So it definitely takes you out of the moment. It is super obvious when stuff like that happens. But again, it's nice to see that, you know, maybe that's not an issue anymore. You know, the little bit of comment that I did, what they're saying did seem pertinent to the situation. But I will admit it wasn't often that they would make those weird call outs, but it was a thing that happened nonetheless. But it's nice to see that this is getting fixed or added, or however it's, you know, they want to kind of phrase that. Now, the next highlight is going to be the A-Life updates. But there is one thing I wanted to sort of speak to before we get into the A-Life updates, is the use of the word A-Life by GSC, by myself, by some other, you know, Stalker 2 fans. I understand that the A-Life isn't even remotely the way that it was in the original games, let alone in the state that they want it to be in. But it doesn't change the fact that this is how the developers are referring to their system. They're referring to it as A-Life. This is its current iteration. Maybe it's not exactly where they want it to be, but it doesn't change the fact that this is what this mechanic is. And so using really any other phrasing to kind of refer to this, I think is a little ridiculous. I mean, if the devs are going to use it, I might as well use it as well, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're all referring to it in the same manner. I think sitting here and playing this like game of semantics with it, I think is a little useless. It is oftentimes what I see in comments of YouTube videos, what I see on different forums and things like that. It's like, we get it. Like, A-Life isn't the way that it's supposed to be. We understand it. That's why they're trying to patch it and get it up to that point. But to sit here and have like these tedious, you know, arguments over the use of the word, I just think it's ridiculous. Again, I'm fully acknowledging that it's not where it should be, or even close to that, to be honest. And honestly, I think a part of me would say it's not even present in the game. But again, it's how they're referring to it. It's how I'm going to continue referring to it. But regardless, to get into some of the patch notes on this, and they're very light. Really, it's just behavior adjustments and pathing adjustments for, you know, for characters in the, when they're kind of spawned in within that circle around you. You know, it is still a little unfortunate that it is so. It's like if you put a scope on and you look in the distance, it's just empty. Like, there is no people. It does kind of make the world feel very lonely, which fits with the Stalker aesthetic, but, or I guess like that zones aesthetic. But it isn't necessarily Stalker, you know, having it like that, because there should be people around you. But again, I mean, it is what it is. It's not quite there yet, but it is nice to see that they're kind of making their way towards that. So I don't know, it's something at least. Now, they did say in their Q2 2025 roadmap that they were going to add, you know, smarter human combat, better cover, flanking use, limited grenades. That is something that we're seeing kind of happen with these patch notes, with, you know, with the aforementioned things that I said. Mutants eating corpses, mutants reacting to threats. They're kind of hitting on all those things. Really, the only other thing that they mentioned on there was the persistent A-Life improvements, which, I mean, is very vague and broad. And you could say that this is that, which, you know, it is. But there's still like a lot of work that needs to be done on that one particular point. But it is nice to see that at least that chunk of the roadmap is pretty much done at this point, I would say. Now, the last two highlights from this and my last two kind of like big takeaways, there's a bunch of balance adjustments, a bunch of bug fixes, things like that. So quests and just the world in general, weapons and so on and so forth. There's really nothing that like super stands out to me, as I've seen in the past with some of the quests that I myself have had like personal issues with. But to be honest, it's still welcome nonetheless to kind of see these different fixes kind of put in place. And then the last thing are performance and optimization fixes. Again, this is as with everything in this, it's really just anecdotal, right? But I have noticed for sure an increase in performance in this specific patch. In the other patches, it's been kind of like up and down. You know, cities still run really bad. Like, garbage just runs bad for me. Anytime there's a bunch of NPCs around, it just runs bad. I'm pretty sure this is one of the big contributing factors why A-Life isn't necessarily present to the degree that they would like it to. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it is welcome nonetheless, that at least when I'm not in a city, it is running a little bit better. Now, the last thing we'll jump into is the roadmap. Now, as I said with the A-Life and AI updates, for the most part, that's kind of like, you can kind of check that off. They've done it. Obviously, the first bullet point, persistent A-Life improvements, that is something that hopefully is never done being improved. That's something that they're just going to continue to iterate on. But you know, the next thing is going to be like the mutant loot. That's not added yet. The beta mod SDK kit. From what I could see online, that's not out. The shader compilation skip. I definitely compiled my shaders. Compiled it, I think is the right word. I compiled my shaders the last time I turned it on. The player stash window increase, that still looks the same. The widescreen aspect ratio support is still not here. The two new weapons still not here either. The further stabilization, optimization, anomaly fixing, that is something that, you know, is constantly being iterated on, right? We've seen this in pretty much every single patch. So I guess you can kind of give like a half check mark to that. But the last thing and the coolest thing that they've done, and they've showed this recently as well, is the Stalker Original Trilogy next gen update. And it's really nice to see, you know, and it's really cool too how they're kind of giving out access, right? Anyone who owns a Legend of the Zones trilogy on Xbox or PS5 is getting the enhanced edition for free, which is super cool, as well as the PC owners of the original trilogy getting that as free as well. Now, the Legends of the Zone trilogy hosts a slew of different improvements to the original games, such as enhanced lighting, upscale textures, they have advanced shaders, they have 4K pre-rendered cinematics, just a bunch of different things. So it'll definitely be really interesting to check out and see kind of how that compares, this enhanced trilogy, to some of the graphical improvement mods that are out there. I think that'll be like the real test, because nowadays, to be honest, I think if you're playing the original games, you're probably not playing base Stalker. Original games, you're probably throwing on like you know, any number of the really amazing mods that are out there for that trilogy. So that to me almost feels like kind of the default state of that of those three games. So it'd be really interesting to see how that stacks up to it, because to be honest, some of those mods are like incredible how they look. The last thing I'll say on this too is that the Legends of the Zone Trilogy Enhanced Edition is definitely something we're going to be checking out and just kind of throwing up a couple videos of, you know, maybe each of the game, maybe just a compilation of all three. We'll kind of see how that pans out, but we'll definitely be checking that out and uploading, you know, our thoughts and reactions to the Enhanced Edition and kind of showcasing those improvements. Now, like I said, guys, this is a very light patch, but a very welcomed one nonetheless. Hopefully, as we go through this here, they continue to iterate on the ALEP and kind of bring it up to, you know, at least like a modicum of like what it's supposed to be. But, you know, time will tell. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Like I said, it's super helpful to us. Subscribe if you guys want to catch more of this content. We're going to be doing more of these patch updates, as well as checking out any new roadmaps that they put out, as well as this enhanced trilogy, and then eventually DLC is too. I'm super pumped for the DLC. But with all that said, I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a good day.